Joining us today, we have, I guess, two special guests. Is that right, Jeb?
That's right. That's
Jeb
right.
Linscomb with the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. And I don't know if your friend has a name, does he?
He does not.
Do you name alligators?
He does. This particular one does not have a name.
Squeamy. He might be. I don't know who's more jittery up here, him or me. Tell us a little bit about we always ask, what is your role within the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries?
Okay, I'm a biologist manager for the Alligator program, which is under the Coastal and Non-Game Resources Division of Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. And so my job is 100% unique to alligators. I don't work really with anything else.
Yeah, well, and that's got to be, I mean, obviously it's unique, but that's got to be pretty cool, huh?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me about a day in the life of an alligator biologist.
Okay, so this guy, for example, the reason I have him is every year at Rockefeller Refuge, which is in extreme southwest Louisiana, it's actually the birthplace of alligator research in the state of Louisiana, by the way. But anyway, each year at Rockefeller, we have technicians and biologists go out and collect alligator eggs, and we incubate them. And the reason we do this is to provide these alligators for research institutions, both universities and other private research institutions or other state agencies throughout the country. Actually, sometimes in other parts of the world. And they're conducting all different kinds of research on sometimes eggs and sometimes actually hatchlings. Oh, yeah. This guy is just a leftover.
And so what do you do with him?
Well, eventually the leftovers we're just going to set back free. So pretty soon here, this guy will just be going back in the wild on Rockefeller Refuge.
I got it. I was going to ask if there's a specific place that you take.
We'll bring him back to his home,
gotcha.
Where he came from.
Do they get adjusted back to their natural habitats fairly easily?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. We're talking about a prehistoric primitive animal that's very instinctual.
Yeah.
Not a lot of learned behavior.
So if you go back in time, though, there's a history here of alligator hunting in Louisiana. It's been a problem, I guess. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Historically, we know that alligators have been harvested primarily for their hide, for the valuable leather that comes out of their hide, all the way back to the 1800s. We know that it's widely known that, for example, their hide was used for leather, for saddles and boots for Confederate soldiers during the Civil War era.
Wow.
And that harvest, unchecked, unregulated harvest, went on throughout the 1900s. And by the time the 1950s came around, there was a precipitous decline and a very, very low harvest of alligators because it just became more and more difficult to find them in the wild because they were over-harvested. So my predecessors in 1962 completely closed alligator hunting in the state of Louisiana, and they did so for about 10 years. And that 10-year period gave them the chance to do much needed research on the basic life history of the animal and come up with a management plan on how we could more sustainably manage alligators. And one of the more important things they did was implement rigorous survey methodology to measure reproduction. Measure reproduction in the wild, and that comes in the form of our annual aerial nest survey that's done on north-south transects all the way from Sabine here, all the way from Pearl River here, all the way to the Sabine on the Texas line, coast-wide every year. And that survey's been done since 1970, every year without fail until today, and that basically guarantees that production is still out there. So, in 1972, on an experimental basis, my predecessors reopened the alligator hunting season on a limited basis in Cameron Parish. 59 hunters harvested about 1,350 alligators. And then each year after that, they gradually ramped up the harvest and began more and more parishes. So less than 10 years later, in 1981, the harvest came back online statewide. And since 1981, that harvest rate has slowly creeped up. Today, we're harvesting about 35,000 alligators annually in our wild harvest, which primarily takes place in September. Yeah. So it is, without a doubt, a great wildlife success story.
Talk about the role of an alligator farmer and what role they play.
Okay, the alligator farming program is much different in that, and it's to be exact, it's more of a ranching program than a farming program. So licensed alligator farmers in the state of Louisiana are allowed to go out and collect eggs from the wild. They they actually pay the landowners for those eggs, and they collect them, bring them in, incubate them, and instead of raising an alligator in the wild, they raise it on a farm. Now, because they're taking all that recruitment out of the marsh, they're required to turn 10% of these guys back to the wild, but 10% of them when they reach 4 foot long. Because of this research that we've conducted over the years, we know that mortality of this little guy is very, very high. He's going to succumb to some sort of natural mortality, and we know now that at least 90% of them don't make it to 4 foot. So we can collect these eggs, incubate them, and then return 10% back to the wild. And then the farmer can take the rest of them, he can grow them out, and then he harvests the animal again for the valuable leather, and the meat is also sold for human consumption as well.
Got it. Next question it literally hits close to home for me, and that's on the alligators you find close to your house. I have a pond in my neighborhood, and every summer there's an alligator. I don't know if they ever reach 4 feet, but we always wonder, what do we do? We have kids and all that. So what is a homeowner who knows of an alligator nearby need to know themselves, and what do they need to do, to make a professional aware of the situation?
Yeah, the first thing they need to do is contact us directly. Contact the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. My office is the New Iberia office, kind of the centralized office for the alligator program. The phone number is 337-373-0032, or they can call several different numbers in all of the different region offices, or they can call the 1-800 number that is actually the same number for Operation Game Thief when you want to call in and report some sort of poaching activity. And that'll give you the dispatch. So that 1-800 number is 24 hours a day on the weekends and everything. So you call that number. What we will do is we'll assess the situation, and I want to mention now, it needs to be the landowner. The most important thing is it needs to be the landowner, because we can't send a nuisance hunter onto an area that we don't have permission to go on.
Yeah.
So we will assign you a number, a complaint number. For each parish, we have several nuisance trappers. In St. Tammany here we have a couple of really good trappers. And we'll give you their phone number, their contact information. You'll contact them, that way you'll set up a time that's good for you to meet with them, and they will come and remove the animal.
Got it. Obviously, there's things you don't want to do. You like feed the animal. What are other things besides that obvious one?
That is probably the biggest no-no. Don't feed them. The second biggest no-no is just stay away from them. Don't touch them. Generally speaking, an alligator is not going to come at a human and attack them.
Right.
They're typically more scared of you unless they've been habitualized and they've been fed and things of that nature. But the best thing to do is just stay away from them and call Wildlife and Fisheries.
Is there a certain size limit or is it any size? If it's a baby all the way up to a 6-footer, does it matter? Should you call, or is
I will say this: each situation is different. Generally speaking, 6 foot and lower, we don't consider them necessarily to be an imminent emergency situation, especially like a 3-footer. He may bite you if you were to go put your hand in his mouth, but he's not going to come at you and attack you.
Yeah.
But we will still remove those animals.
Yeah.
They're just not as urgent.
You may not get out there with an ambulance.
That's correct.
and do it real time. Interesting. Okay, so let's go back to the hunting part. What if someone wants to hunt legally, and let's talk St. Tammany since this is where the program is. What do they need to do? Okay,
so there's 2 avenues for you to hunt. You can hunt in the traditional way in our commercial alligator harvest, because again, our harvest, that's what it is. It's a commercial harvest. It's centered around the value of the hide and the meat for human consumption. So if you want to be a part of that commercial harvest, what you would have to do is turn in land, a land description, so to speak, with an application. Those applications are on alligatorprogram.com. And what we would do is assess that property and look at the total acreage of the property and what value it has for alligator nesting. And the higher densities areas for nesting are the areas that receive more tags. So again, we harvest about 35,000 alligators. We actually issue more like 38,000, 39,000. And those are all they're all over the state, but the vast majority are in the coastal zone, because down here in the coastal zone, that's where the best habitat is. That's for the commercial harvest. The other avenue for somebody who's just wants to get out and maybe harvest 1 or 2 or 3 alligators, wants their kids to experience it, doesn't have land, but still wants to do it on a recreational basis, the best hope for them is the lottery. We have 45 different WMAs, okay, and about 360 hunter opportunities statewide on those 45 WMAs, and it translates to about 900 tags. That's all in 2 to 3 tag lots, depending on if it's a public lake or a WMA. Here in St. Tammany Parish, I would say, although someone in St. Tammany Parish can apply for a lottery anywhere in the state of Louisiana, but if you're looking for something that's close to home, your best bet is Pearl River or Manchac or Marpaw, WMAs, because that's the ones that are closest to you. Yeah. And they're very popular.
Is there a cost?
There is a cost associated with it. The application is a $5 fee that's non-refundable. Okay, now if you are selected, the cost is $40 a tag and a $25 hunting license. So in order to harvest 3 alligators, it'll cost you $145.
That's, if you're doing it for recreation, especially,
right.
There's more expensive things in the world to spend your money on.
And you can get helper's license. So if you got 3 tags, you could bring, and you had 3 sons or 3 daughters, you could bring all 3 of them with you, and they could all 3 get a helper's license and each shoot 1 alligator. There's ways to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Very
interesting.
And
it is just a really, really good opportunity for people to have a recreational good time that don't want to make a living off of this.
Right, right. All right, so someone wants to find more. I think you've already mentioned maybe the website, but do it again, or any other.
Okay, so you can go directly to the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries website and look for the alligator part of the website, or you can just type in alligatorprogram.com and it brings you directly to the alligator portion of the website.
Got it. Anything else you want the public to know about alligators?
I can't think of anything.
Covered a lot of ground. We put you on the spot too. And thanks. It's always hard having a moving target in your hand and doing an interview. So.
Well, and I feel kind of sorry for him. I think I've worn him out.
He's tired. It might be time I'll pet him, but I'll do that off camera.